There are some rare experiments in gaming that could only come about with the right timing, right people, and right alignment of the stars. LOL is one example of this sentiment. No, not that LOL. No, not that LOL either. No, definitely not that LOL. Ah yes, that's the one. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. This LOL, which stands for Lack of Love, is one of the more obscure and unique releases of the Sega Dreamcast's tragically short life. And that's saying a lot, since the Dreamcast was the home to so many games that pushed the boundaries of creativity for console gaming. Games like Jet Set Radio, Phantasy Star Online, Shenmue, Space Channel 5, Seaman, to name just a few. Anyway, Lack of Love is the brainchild of game designer Kenichi Nishi and world-renowned musician and composer Ryuichi Sakamoto, both of whom met almost completely by chance. The two quickly struck up a friendship, and eventually the topic of the Gaia hypothesis came up in their many conversations. I'm no scientist, nor am I a pseudoscientist, but to my understanding, Gaia hypothesis maintains that living creatures in the planet work in tandem to regulate the conditions for life on Earth, particularly through the process of symbiosis and coevolution. Sakamoto proposed making a game based on this idea, and so began work on Lack of Love. Published in 2000 by ASCII and released only in Japan, Nishi directed the game and his Love-de-lic studio handled game development, whereas Sakamoto provided music and pitched ideas for the project. The final product is a brilliant game that is hard to define or categorize. The back of the box labels it as role-playing, but that's very misleading. It's more like an evolutionary adventure/puzzle game. The entire design of LOL is minimalist and somewhat cryptic in regards to both its presentation and gameplay. The instruction manual sets up the story, describing the Lack of Love project, a plan created by human beings to search for other planets in order to migrate to and populate. The opening cinematic introduces us to Halumi, one of the robots sent out into space to accomplish this mission, who has just found a suitable planet and prepares to land to fulfill his duties. At first, it seems like Halumi and his mission will be the main focus of the game, and we as the player are glad that the friendly-looking robot has had a successful journey. But our attitude quickly changes when the darker implications of his mission become apparent, as hundreds of robotic machines emerge from Halumi's ship in order to acclimate the environment to accept the human population. After the introduction, our protagonist, an odd creature native to the alien planet, is born and the game begins. Lack of Love throws the player out into the game with no real direction. Only the analog stick and 4 face buttons are used. Movement is obviously handled with the analog stick, and pressing A causes the player to either attack, eat, or bark. The X button executes an audible greeting, the B button makes the character fall asleep, and the Y button is used to pee. Digital urine on your Dreamcast. The instruction manual states the goal of the game is just to continue living, and for the most part that is exactly what you do throughout the entirety of LOL. Your character has life points as indicated by the green sphere at the top left corner of the screen, as well as a hunger meter represented by moving rings around the life meter. Life points regenerate over time as long as the hunger meter is not depleted. Go hungry and you slowly lose life points until you die. To prevent your hunger meter from draining, and in turn maintain your life points, you must seek out and eat food in the forms of vegetation and in most cases, other animals. But all that is just small potatoes compared to what the bulk of the gameplay revolves around, which is evolution, or more scientifically speaking, metamorphosis. But again, I'm no scientist, and on that note, neither were the creators of Pokemon. Anyway, in order to survive and ultimately progress through the game, you must evolve into increasingly more powerful and larger creatures that can adapt to the environment. This is achieved by befriending or forming a bond with other species of animals, often showing your lack of love. Doing this nets the player Cosmo Balls, which are little energy orbs required for metamorphosis. Find some special crystals in the wilderness, and if you have enough Cosmo Balls, you're encased in an egg and become the next step in the evolutionary chain. This sounds pretty basic and easy, but it can be quite challenging due to the minimalistic approach to the game design. Lack of Love doesn't hold the player's hand and instead forces you to pay attention to subtle audio-visual clues pertaining to the different creatures in your surroundings. Sometimes this process can be pretty easy and apparent, such as defending a creature being attacked by other animals or reuniting lost members of the same species. But for the most part, it's not so clear on how to befriend these creatures. One example of this is when you encounter a certain organism with large ears. If you encounter it at night, you'll notice that small and noisy bugs gather near its ears, preventing it from sleeping properly. If you pee somewhere nearby, the bugs will presumably be attracted to that scent and leave the creature alone. The animal will show its gratitude for your help by giving you a Cosmo Ball. One more option you have in finding a solution to these puzzles lies in the name of the animals, which are oftentimes hints on how to befriend or make contact with them. One of the first animals you'll encounter is a small green creature caught in the rain. If you check your menu, you'll see it is called an amegirai. Ame in Japanese means rain, and kirai means dislike, so you can put together that these little guys dislike the rain. Attack one of the nearby umbrella-shaped plants and it will provide cover, and the amegirai creatures will huddle under it, rewarding you with a Cosmo Ball. A majority of the game revolves around the player wandering the landscape, meeting new life forms and evolving, but there are a few interesting set pieces that change things up a bit. At one point you are captured by scorpion ant-like creatures and need to escape from their nest. Some of the sights in this section can be pretty terrifying and really makes you feel as though you're in danger, driving your desire to escape. At another point late in the game, you're captured by Halloumi and put through a series of tests to measure your intelligence. Prove yourself and pass these tests and you'll become a welcome guest aboard the ship, separated from those animals who did not fare as well. Alternately, if you fail any one of these tests, the consequence leads to a truly horrific scene that will keep you on the edge of your seat, anxiously awaiting its conclusion. There are other games that come to mind that are very minimalist and evoke strong emotions from the player, such as Shadow of the Colossus and the downloadable title Journey. However, Lack of Love accomplishes the rare feat in gaming, fulfilling this without the use of dialogue or human characters whatsoever. When I passed the test and received preferential treatment from Halloumi, I genuinely felt guilty about the situation. This was heightened even further because I had previously witnessed the fate of other creatures that were unable to attain the same elite status when I failed one of the tests. Experiencing these things firsthand as a player character, whom I spent hours with traversing and surviving a hostile landscape, made these moments much more powerful emotionally than if I had been controlling a human character witnessing everything from a distance. While playing the game, I thought about environmental concerns, animal cruelty, animal testing and captivity, the gap between the elite and the masses, and the titular lack of love that we as human beings have when it comes to such issues, as well as the feeling of loneliness and isolation that a lack of love brings. And for all the weight of the game's message, not once did I roll my eyes, nor feel that I was being overly proselytized to. Final Fantasy VII. The greatest strength of LOL is that it effectively communicates its message while being engaging and enjoyable, and I would go so far as to call this a fine example of an activist game. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the musical and art direction of Lack of Love. Ryuichi Sakamoto composed all the spectacular music for the game, but use of his soundtrack is actually quite sparse. A majority of the game's audio consists of ambient noises and sounds from the player character and other creatures. When one of the game's musical pieces does kick in, however, it is used to great effect and enhances the mood of the scene perfectly. Visually, the look of the creatures and environments are fantastic, distinctly alien, yet familiar at the same time, somewhat similar to the designs found in the movie Avatar. Lack of Love is one of the best titles I've played for the Dreamcast, and is absolutely worth playing at least once. When it was first released, its style, design, and message was one of a kind and still holds up very well today. Copies are a bit pricey at the time of this video, with used copies going for over $60. I happened to be extremely lucky and found the game new for $5 due to a local game store going out of business. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please rate and comment and check out my channel for other videos like this.